Huddersfield has always been at the forefront of industry, and never was that more true than in the 19th century when Huddersfield was at the head of the textile industry, and it was known globally for that. There was also coal mining very close by in many fields and even woodlands like Lepton Great Wood, as I showed you in one of my previous videos. Of course, there were strong links to other coal mining towns like Barnsley and Wakefield as well. Victorians prided themselves on progress and prided themselves on trying to make the world a smaller, more efficient place. So that meant having better transport links between towns and cities, and even at a hyper-local level between towns and smaller villages. Now, I'm down at the Rowley Viaduct, a magnificent piece of Victorian architecture, I think you'll agree. I'm in Dogley Bar, which is between Fennybridge and Kirkburton, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Kirkburton branch of a railway line that ran between the old Deighton railway station and Kirkburton. Something that was actually meant to be extended out to Barnsley to create better links between Huddersfield and coal mining areas, but that never came to fruition. Nevertheless, this is a fantastic example of hyper-local level Victorian transport infrastructure, and I want to show you a couple of little bits of evidence that are still remaining today.
As you look along the old Kirkburton branch, if you look in the right places, you can see human activity with very steep banking and very low track beds, clearly signifying there was a railway there.
But despite the lush greenery you see around me today, that wasn't always the case. The pretty tall wall behind me, you can see there, is a marker that this was the terminus point of the Kirkburton branch. This was where Kirkburton Station was, a place that saw passengers arriving here between 1867 and 1930. There were around 9 or 10 trains a day during weekdays and some extra trains at the weekends. It was discontinued as a passenger route in 1930, although it was used as a freight route between 1930 and 1965. Now, you could travel from here to Huddersfield, the centre of Huddersfield, in just under 20 minutes. That's pretty impressive considering that you had to go from here to Fennybridge and Lepton Station that there was, the Kirkburton Station, through to Old Deighton, which is where this branch of the London North Western Railway was, and you could travel from Old Deighton down into Huddersfield. So it's a pretty impressive route. Now, the railway itself wasn't, it began construction in 1865, and it wasn't without challenges. In fact, the Whittaker Mill Viaduct, which is near Deighton, and there is an existing version of that today, well, 2 of its arches actually collapsed in construction of the railway, and that caused £1,000 worth of damages which needed to be repaired. Fortunately, there were no other setbacks in the construction of the route, although, as you can see from the physical landscape today, it did actually constructing the route was an arduous task and required digging and moving a lot of earth.
Now, there was a clear reason why the passenger route for the Kirkburton branch was discontinued as a passenger route in 1930, barring a few special excursions that were carried on until the 1960s. And that reason was because there was a decline in the passengers. Now, people had originally used the passenger train to get into Huddersfield quickly, so that they could, perhaps go to the market to get food that they needed or to do other kind of jobs. And it was a quick way of getting into town. However, from Waterloo, there was actually a steam tram which was introduced in around 1890. And then in 1902, there were electric trams running from Waterloo and around this area all the way into town. So it was actually Victorian technology constantly evolving and constantly reinventing itself, which led to the discontinuation of the Kirkburton branch as a passenger route. It's astonishing to think of the steam train, nicknamed locally as the Burton Dick, whizzing up and down the old Kirkburton branch between Kirkburton and Deighton for many, many years. But the line itself also played an important part through its freight trains. Now, ICI, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, was formed in 1915 And in 1915, an extra railway was added that joined the chemical complex to the Kirkburton branch to give it easy access to export things. Similarly, there were 4 munitions factories that were placed very close to the Kirkburton branch during the First World War, and in fact 4 million hand grenades were dispatched from Fennybridge Station each year during World War One, showing that the railway itself was incredibly important in the distribution of munitions from our local area.
Although the Kirkburton branch of this railway closed to the public in 1930 and closed completely in 1965, its legacy is long-lasting. And as I said, here is the Rowley Viaduct in Dogley Bar, which shows the ambition of Victorian infrastructure, something which was mirrored across not only Huddersfield, but the north of the country and the country as a whole, as the Victorians tried to progress industrially, create stronger links, allow people to move around between towns and cities, something which had not previously been possible in the past. So thank you for watching this edition of Ted's Takes, a pretty chilly edition of Ted's Takes. As you can see from my big fat coat and my scarf, it's an Exeter City scarf, if you're wondering. And as I studied down in Exeter, I think it's fair enough that I wear it. But thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. Give me a follow on Instagram and Facebook, and keep yourself up to date with what I'm doing, because there's loads and loads of stuff. And I've got loads of ideas, all for you. See you soon.